I never thought I'd go to my ex's wedding, but when the invitation arrived, thick and cream-colored, it felt less like a request and more like a summons from a past I'd tried to bury under skyscrapers and stock options. What you're about to hear isn't just a story about a wedding. It's about the masks people wear and the quiet truths that can set you free. Hey, you can call me Julian. For years, the world has known me by my full name, the one on magazine covers and shareholder reports. But this story isn't about that guy. Before we continue, tell us where in the world you are watching from. Drop it in the comments below. And if you enjoy this story, don't forget to like the video and subscribe for more powerful content like this. This is about the man who stood in a silent glass-walled penthouse holding an invitation that felt heavier than any business deal I'd ever closed. 2 years, that's how long Isabella and I were together. College sweethearts, a storybook romance that ended abruptly when my dreams weren't materializing fast enough for her ambition. She left me with $23,000 in credit card debt and a beta version of an app she called Fairy Dust. A year later, that fairy dust made me a billionaire. And now, she was marrying Edward Sterling, a man whose family name was as old and sturdy as the Charleston cobblestones. I almost threw the invitation away. My best friend Liam told me I was insane for even thinking about going. "It's a power move, man," he'd said over the phone. "She just wants to see if you'll show up." He wasn't wrong. The thought of watching her pledge her life to someone else felt like a special kind of torture. But a different feeling kept nagging at me. A sense that I'd been so focused on the why she left that I never truly understood the who she was. I needed closure, that mythic thing people talk about. I needed to see her one last time, not as the woman who broke my heart, but as a closed chapter. So, against all logic, I checked "will attend" and dropped the card in the mail chute, the click echoing in the empty hall like a cell door locking. I promised myself I'd be dignified. One glass of champagne, a polite congratulations, and a quiet exit. I had no idea that night would introduce me to Amara, the woman who would dismantle my past and give me a reason to build a future. The wedding was exactly as flawless as you'd expect. A sprawling estate garden, string lights twinkling like captured stars, and a string trio playing something soft and expensive. I felt like an exhibit, the ex-boyfriend who made it big, a piece of trivia for the guests to whisper about. I avoided the receiving line and found a quiet corner near the bar. Isabella was radiant, of course, her smile as bright and curated as the floral arrangements. She was playing the part of a lifetime. And then, as the sun began to dip below the horizon, painting the sky in shades of orange and purple, I saw her. She was sitting alone by a stone fountain, a glass of red wine in her hand, dressed in a stunning deep burgundy gown that seemed to absorb the fading light. She wasn't looking at her phone and wasn't trying to catch anyone's eye. She was just present, an island of stillness in a sea of performative mingling. Her skin was a beautiful deep brown, and her hair was styled in elegant coils. Our eyes met for a brief second, and unlike everyone else, she didn't look away. She held my gaze with a calm curiosity that felt more genuine than any conversation I'd had all night. The DJ switched to a slow melodic song, one Isabella and I used to love. I watched her take the floor with her new husband, their movements practiced, their smiles aimed at the cameras. Something inside me snapped. It wasn't jealousy, not anymore. It was a profound sense of loneliness, of being surrounded by ghosts. Before I could second-guess myself, I was walking toward the woman in burgundy. She looked up as I approached, a slight, unreadable smile on her face. "I don't normally do this," I said, extending my hand. "But would you like to dance?" She studied me for a moment, her dark eyes seeming to see right through the billionaire facade. "I don't usually say yes to strangers," she replied, her voice smooth and warm. She placed her hand in mine. "But tonight feels like an exception." Her name was Amara. As we stepped onto the dance floor, I could feel Isabella's eyes on us. Amara's presence was grounded. The silence between us wasn't awkward, it was comfortable, a shared respite from the noise. "So," she finally said, her voice low, "how do you know the happy couple?" I hesitated. "Isabella and I used to date." Her eyebrow arched slightly. "Bold of you to come." "Apparently I enjoy emotional torture," I joked weakly. "And you?" A shadow flickered across her face, so quick I almost missed it. "Let's just say Isabella and I have a history," she said. "A long one." As we turned, I saw Isabella watching us, her perfect smile strained. Amara noticed too, and she pulled me just a fraction of an inch closer, a subtle act of solidarity that made me intensely curious about the story she was holding back. When the song ended, neither of us wanted to leave the bubble we'd created. "Need some air?" she asked, nodding toward the terrace. Outside, the air was cool and smelled of jasmine. We stood by the stone balustrade, the distant music providing a soundtrack to our sudden seclusion. "So, the ex-boyfriend," she said, a playful light in her eyes. "Got a real name?" "Julian," I told her, "and you're Amara, who has a mysterious history with my ex." She laughed, a sound that felt real and unscripted. All good stories need a little suspense. We talked for what felt like hours about everything and nothing, books, travel, the quiet absurdity of high society events. She was a civil rights attorney, a fact she mentioned with a humble pride that I found captivating. She was brilliant, funny, and carried herself with a quiet strength that made my carefully constructed world feel fragile. "Can I ask you something personal?" she said, her tone shifting. "Were you in love with her?" The question was direct, disarming. "I thought I was," I admitted. "But tonight, I'm not sure I ever really knew who she was." Amara nodded slowly, her gaze drifting back toward the reception. "That's the thing about Isabella," she said, her voice dropping. "There's the person she shows the world, and then there's the truth." The weight of her words hung in the air. "What do you mean?" Diana took a deep breath. "Do you know what she was like in high school, Julian?" I shook my head. "She never talked about it much." "That's because she sanitized the story," Amara said. "The Isabella I knew wasn't just popular. She was cruel." She then told me a story about a quiet, brilliant girl in her class named Maya, a girl who Isabella and her friends targeted. They created a fake social media profile, pretending to be a boy Maya had a crush on. They built her up for months, made her believe she was finally being seen, only to invite her to the prom and publicly humiliate her by projecting their private, fabricated conversations onto a giant screen for the entire school to see. The girl was so devastated she left school and never came back. I felt physically sick. "And Maya?" I asked, my throat tight. Amara looked me directly in the eye. "She was me, Julian." I was Maya. My mind struggled to connect the poised, confident woman before me with the shattered teenager in her story. I legally changed my name after I graduated, she explained. Maya was the girl they tried to break. Amara is the woman I became when I decided to put myself back together. I leaned against the railing, the polished world of the wedding reception feeling like a cheap movie set. The carefully constructed image I'd held of Isabella, the woman I'd mourned, crumbled into dust. "I'm so sorry," I whispered. "It wasn't your fault," she said gently, "but you deserve to know who you were mourning." She told me how that night sent her into a spiral, costing her a scholarship and her confidence, and how she'd clawed her way back, working through community college and law school, fueled by a determination to never let anyone make her feel that small again. "So you came here tonight to confront her?" I asked, astonished by her courage. She shook her head. "I came here to see her, to look her in the eye and know that I didn't just survive. I thrived." A protective instinct I hadn't felt in years stirred within me. "I'll go with you," I said. We walked back into the reception hall together. When Isabella saw us approaching, her smile froze. Fear, real and unfiltered, flashed in her eyes before the masks snapped back into place. "Isabella," Amara said, her voice warm but firm. "Congratulations." Isabella's eyes darted between us. "Thank you. I'm sorry. Have we met?" Amara's smile never wavered. "We have. A long time ago. My name was Maya Jordan then." The color drained from Isabella's face. She knew, in that moment, she knew that I knew. Her entire carefully built world had just developed a hairline fracture right down the middle. The reception felt different after that. The music sounded hollow, the laughter forced. Amara and I stood on the terrace, the cool night air a welcome relief. "Are you okay?" I asked her. She exhaled slowly, a deep, cleansing breath. "Better than okay," she said. "For years, she was this giant in my head. But tonight, she just looked small." I thought about the red flags I'd ignored in my relationship with Isabella, the casual cruelties I'd brushed aside. I had been in love with a ghost, a performance. "I came here for closure," I said, the irony hitting me full force. "I just never expected to find it with you." Amara's hand found mine, her touch light but steady. "Sometimes the universe gives you what you need, not what you think you want." 6 months have passed since that night. Amara and I left the wedding together, and we've been talking ever since. We're taking it slow, two people learning to trust again, building something real on a foundation of honesty. A few months ago, I ran into Edward, Isabella's husband, at a conference. He mentioned they were in counseling, that she'd become paranoid and controlling. I didn't tell him her secrets, but I told him to watch how she treats people she thinks are beneath her. As for me, I took a sabbatical from my own company. That night made me realize I'd been building an empire to prove something to a woman who was never worth the effort. Now, I'm building a life, one based on clarity, not ambition. Amara's law practice is thriving. She's giving a voice to kids who were silenced, turning her deepest pain into her greatest purpose. Her strength inspires me every day. I never expected to find a new beginning at my ex's wedding, but watching Amara reclaim her power with such quiet dignity taught me something profound. Closure isn't about shutting a door in the past. It's about understanding it so clearly that it no longer has any power over your future. And sometimes the secrets people keep are the very things that end up setting you free.